Hello and welcome to Vantage. I'm Alyson Le Grange. Let's get started. India is hosting a visitor from a regime it doesn't recognize. Afghanistan's foreign minister under the Taliban, Amir Khan Muttaqi, is in New Delhi, and today he met India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. This is the highest level engagement between the two sides since the Taliban took power in 2021, and the optics were remarkable. Handshakes, smiles, and a major policy shift. India announced that its mission in Kabul will be upgraded to an embassy. It also gifted 20 ambulances and promised investment support. There was talk of mining, connectivity, reconstruction, and even cricket. Taliban threw its weight behind India's Chabahar project, and most importantly, both sides agreed to fight terrorism together. So what's behind this outreach? Two things: India's long-term interest in Afghanistan and Pakistan's weakening grip over Kabul. As regional dynamics shift, India is recalibrating. Without recognition, but with realism. We'll bring you the details. Also on the show, why Trump wants to expel Spain from NATO. What is Taiwan's T-dome and why China is angry about it. Why the IMF and the Bank of England believe there's an AI bubble, and how the Gen Z face a job market apocalypse. But first, as always, the headlines.
Pakistan's capital Islamabad turns into a fortress. Security forces have barricaded major roads leading to the capital with shipping containers. Mobile internet services have also been suspended. This comes after lakhs of members of a far-right group attempted to march to the US Embassy in Islamabad in protest of the Gaza killings. The march was blocked by police personnel in Lahore, leading to violent clashes. Lawmakers in Peru removed President Dina Boluarte from office just after midnight. This ended a tenure plagued by protests, corruption probes, and rampant crime. The head of the legislature has assumed the South American country's presidency. He plans to lead a transitional government until elections in April 2026. Syria's foreign minister is in Lebanon as the two countries look to reset ties. It's the first visit by a senior official since the ouster of Bashar al-Assad. In March, the two countries signed an agreement to address border security threats after clashes left 10 people dead. Lebanon has also played host to more than 1 million Syrians who fled their country's civil war. Junta-ruled Burkina Faso refuses to take in people deported from the US. Since Trump's return to the White House, his administration has launched a sweeping immigration crackdown, where people are often deported to countries with which they have no connections. In recent months, Eswatini, Ghana, Rwanda, and South Sudan have all accepted people expelled from the US. And Venezuela's opposition leader and democracy activist Maria Corina Machado wins the Nobel Peace Prize. The Nobel Committee said she was honored for her work promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela. US President Donald Trump had made no secret of his desire to win this year's prize.
India is hosting a strange guest today, a guest from a regime it does not recognize. I am talking about the foreign minister of the Taliban, Amir Khan Muttaqi. He is on an 8-day trip to India, and today he met with India's foreign minister S. Jaishankar. The visit itself was unprecedented. Just look at these pictures. Minister Jaishankar and Muttaqi standing side by side, shaking hands, exchanging smiles. This was considered unthinkable until recently. We'll come to the reason behind this outreach, but first, the developments. Jaishankar and Muttaqi held delegation-level talks. India also handed over 20 ambulances to the Taliban, which were gifted in person by Minister Jaishankar. Now, during their talks, Jaishankar made a big announcement. India would upgrade its mission in Kabul to an embassy.
Closer cooperation between us contributes to your national development as well as regional stability and resilience. To enhance that, I am pleased to announce today the upgrading of India's technical mission in Kabul to the status of Embassy of India.
Let's look at the 5 highlights of Jaishankar's remarks. Number 1, what you just heard. India will upgrade its mission in Kabul. Until now, New Delhi was operating a technical office in Afghanistan. That will now be upgraded to an embassy. Number 2, economic opportunities and assistance. Jaishankar promised to help in the reconstruction efforts after the recent earthquake. He also affirmed India's renewed interest in investments.
Today, I reaffirm that our long-standing partnership that has seen so many Indian projects in Afghanistan stands renewed. We can discuss the maintenance and repairs of finished projects, as well as steps to complete others to which we have already committed. Your invitation to Indian companies to explore mining opportunities in Afghanistan is also deeply appreciated. This can be discussed further.
Mining is a huge opportunity in Afghanistan. It is home to resources worth $1 trillion. China is already eyeing some of these resources, so India doesn't want to be left behind. Number 3, promoting exchanges. Jaishankar praised the starting of direct flights between Delhi and Kabul. He also noted that India was now issuing more visas to Afghans. And don't forget cricket. India has supported the rise of Afghan cricket, and Jaishankar promised to deepen that support. Number 4, India urged the Taliban to combat terror together.
Excellency, we have a common commitment towards growth and prosperity. However, these are endangered by the shared threat of cross-border terrorism that both our nations face. We must coordinate efforts to combat terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. We appreciate your sensitivity towards India's security concerns. Your solidarity with us in the aftermath of the Pahalgam terrorist attack was noteworthy.
We always sought good relations with India. We will not allow any group to threaten anyone else or use the territory of Afghanistan against others.
This is a huge change in the equation. The first Taliban regime sponsored terror against India. It gave refuge to Pakistani terrorists on its soil. But 2 decades later, things have changed. The Taliban had condemned the Pahalgam terror attack in April. Muttaqi himself called Minister Jaishankar during Operation Sindoor. And finally, number 5. India reaffirmed its support to Afghan sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. This is crucial in the prevailing context. US President Donald Trump is demanding a military base in Afghanistan, Bagram, just north of Kabul. The Taliban has rejected Trump's demand, and clearly India is supporting their position. Similarly, Pakistan had territory disputes with Afghanistan, and both countries are yet to agree on their border. In this context, India's statement is important. Now let's go back to the original question. Why is India hosting the Taliban? Simply put, because times have changed. In the late 1990s, they did not have complete control over Afghanistan. There were pockets of resistance in the hills. This time, the Taliban have total and unquestionable control. Plus, the Taliban has changed. Not their domestic policies, but their foreign policy. In the 1990s, they depended heavily on Pakistan. Islamabad was their only window to the outside world. This time, those ties have frayed. Pakistan accuses the Taliban of supporting the Pakistani-Taliban. Both sides have exchanged gunfire in recent years. In December of 2024, Pakistan launched airstrikes on Afghan targets, so Pakistan-Taliban ties have deteriorated. It was evident from Muttaqi's remarks today. He warned Pakistan from Indian soil.
हम जैसे हिंदुस्तान के साथ अच्छा ताल्लुकात चाहता है, पाकिस्तान के साथ भी अच्छा ताल्लुकात चाहता है, लेकिन ये ताल्लुकात दोनों तरफ से हो सकता है, एक तरफ से तो नहीं हो सकता है। इसलिए हमारा ख्वाहिश ये है कि ऐसा गलती को तकरार नहीं करना चाहिए। अफ़गानियों का हौसले नहीं आजमाया, उसको ज़्यादा छेड़ना अगर लोग करता है तो वो एक बार अंग्रेज़ से पूछे, फिर सोवियत यूनियन से पूछे, फिर अमेरिका से पूछे, फिर नाटो से पूछे, ताकि वो आपको थोड़ा सा समझाए कि भाई अफगानिस्तान के साथ ऐसा खेल करना ये अच्छा नहीं है।
So Pakistan-Taliban ties are growing sour. Pakistan-India ties were always bad. So strategic logic says India and the Taliban should engage. It's a change and a chance for India to diminish Pakistan's influence in Kabul. But that's not the only reason for this outreach. Afghanistan is strategically important for India. Why? Because it could be India's bridge to Central Asia. Let me pull up the map for you. India is building a port in southern Iran at Chabahar off the Gulf of Oman. Now this port will be connected by road and rail to Afghanistan. That way, India can access Afghanistan without touching Pakistan. And just north of Afghanistan is Central Asia. This route is key for both countries. India can use it to bypass Pakistan, and landlocked Afghanistan can use it to access the sea. Today, Muttaqi spoke about Chabahar. He threw his support behind it.
चाबहार के हवाले से तो एक अच्छा रास्ता और अच्छा फुर्सत है कि उससे इस्तिफ़ादा होना चाहिए। हम और हिंदुस्तान दोनों कोशिश करें कि ये रास्ते में जितना भी मुश्किलात है, जितना भी रुकावटें हैं, उसको दूर हो जाए, चूँकि इसी रास्ते में अमेरिका का भी कुछ पाबंदियां आया हैं, तो हम और हिंदुस्तान दोनों मिलकर अमेरिका से भी बातचीत करता है।
Where does that leave the human rights concerns? Jaishankar did not mention it during his remarks, but make no mistake, it's a big issue. Just look at what happened at Muttaqi's press conference today. Reports say not a single female journalist was invited. This is unacceptable in a democracy like India, and this is indeed the challenge. Yes, India must engage with Kabul to further its national interests, but at the same time, justice must not be forgotten. Any policy must balance realism and freedoms. Today's events signal a big shift from India's side. New Delhi is taking a pragmatic approach by engaging the Taliban. The Taliban's old backers will certainly have something to say about this. Yes, we are talking about Pakistan. They have supported the Taliban for decades, but today this relationship is falling apart. Earlier today, fresh reports emerged. Afghanistan accused Pakistan of breaching its airspace. Overnight explosions were heard in Kabul. The Taliban confirmed the blasts, but they didn't share any more details. Observers believe that these were airstrikes. They were carried out by Pakistan's military. Their target? Terrorists of the banned Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, or the TTP. That's the Pakistani-Taliban. One former American official has weighed in. That's Zalmay Khalilzad. He is a former U.S. diplomat, and he negotiated the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Khalilzad wrote a post online. He said, and I quote, Today's Pakistani strikes against Afghanistan's capital are a huge escalation. Khalilzad didn't share any evidence of Pakistan's involvement. Now, Pakistan's military did release a statement. It says they carried out retribution operations, but made no mention of the airstrikes in Kabul. The timing is important because these strikes happened when the Taliban foreign minister is visiting Delhi and meeting Indian leaders. Analysts believe this is yet another sign. Pakistan is not happy with the Taliban. Remember, for decades, Pakistan backed the Taliban. They gave them safe havens, funded them, armed them, and used them to exert influence over Afghanistan. This was part of Pakistan's strategy. They wanted to build strategic depth against India. But that strategy is now falling apart. Pakistan's relationship with the Taliban faces deep trouble. Just this week, 11 Pakistani soldiers were killed. They were ambushed in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Now, this is a province in Pakistan, and Pakistan blamed the TTP for this attack. Islamabad says Afghan territory is being used to launch terror attacks, and they're losing patience. Pakistan's Defense Minister Khawaja Asif has issued a comment. He said that a delegation will soon be sent to Kabul. Their task is to deliver a message to the Taliban. No more cross-border terrorism. No more safe havens for TTP. Islamabad has issued similar warnings before, but the Taliban have paid little heed. There have been more points of differences. Now, in May, the Taliban condemned the terror attack in Pahalgam, an attack that was carried out by Pakistan-sponsored terrorists. And last year, we witnessed cross-border attacks. In December, Afghanistan's Paktika province was struck. Pakistan's Air Force conducted a strike. They said that they were targeting TTP fighters. Over 40 people were killed. In response, the Taliban hit back. They struck several Pakistan military posts. Over 10 Pakistani soldiers were killed. Now, clearly, the Taliban is undeterred. Pakistan spent decades supporting the Taliban, and now the group is defying them. And to make matters worse, Pakistan is losing soldiers to these attacks. Even diplomacy has failed to deliver results. At one point, Islamabad even suggested turning to the US for help. Now, they were considering even offering drone bases to the US to target militants in Afghanistan, offering drone bases to the US and using them to hit targets in Afghanistan. Even the military establishment has been ineffective. Now, Pakistan's top military leader has tried to play both sides. Yes, we are talking about Field Marshal Asim Munir. Now, first, he urged the Taliban to act against the TTP. He reminded them of Pakistan's past support. He called Pakistan a benevolent brother Islamic country. But he also said, and I quote, "When it comes to the safety of every single Pakistani, the whole of Afghanistan can be damned." So what started as a strategic alliance has turned into a divorce. Pakistan's bid for strategic depth has collapsed. The Taliban want independence. They want legitimacy, and they're looking to countries like India to achieve this. If the Taliban are successful in finding new friends in the region, it could reshape the region's politics for years to come. 2 years. It has been 2 long, exhausting years since Hamas's surprise attack on the 7th of October. And the world finally has a peace deal. A deal that could end the war in Gaza. The declaration came after 3 days of indirect negotiations in Egypt. Both Hamas and Israel have agreed to it. US President Donald Trump will visit Israel on Monday. He will speak before the Knesset also and will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The first phase is set to begin soon with the return of the hostages. For a region addicted to ceasefires that don't last, This plan feels both familiar and radically new. But as with all things West Asia and all things Trump, it's also complicated. Our next report tells you why.
It began as many turning points in world politics now do, with a post on Truth Social. Donald Trump announced the Gaza peace deal. The Israeli cabinet has formally approved the first phase of the peace plan. A ceasefire is supposed to now be in effect. Here's the roadmap. Israel will withdraw troops to an agreed line, maintaining control over roughly 53% of Gaza for now. Hamas will release 20 hostages alive, followed by the return of the bodies of 28 deceased captives. In exchange, Israel will free around 1,950 Palestinian prisoners, including 250 serving life terms. Humanitarian aid will then finally flow. To keep the peace, a multinational task force, around 200 troops, will monitor the ceasefire. It will be led by the US, but composed of forces from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the UAE. If the first phase holds, the next steps are supposed to follow like falling dominoes. Gaza will be demilitarized. A transitional governing committee of Palestinian technocrats will then take over. This will be supervised by a board of peace chaired by Trump himself. Former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair is expected to serve as vice chair. Hamas will have no future role in Gaza's governance, though its members may be offered amnesty or safe passage abroad. And finally, the pièce de résistance. There will be a Trump economic development plan to rebuild Gaza.
I think it's going to be great. I think it's the hostages will be coming back Monday or Tuesday. I'll probably be there. I hope to be there, and we're planning on leaving sometime Sunday, and I look forward to it. And everybody I see is celebrating in Israel, but they're celebrating in many other countries too.
But if you followed West Asian peace efforts before, you know what's coming next. Here's what could derail this shiny new peace plan before it even begins. First is Hamas and its disarmament. The group hasn't committed to laying down arms. Second is Israel's withdrawal. Trump's plan envisions a three-phase Israeli withdrawal. The first step is leaving only a security perimeter. No timeline has been announced for that last step, a detail that makes everyone nervous. Third is who governs Gaza. A technocratic transitional committee sounds good on paper, but it's a bureaucratic black hole in practice. Interestingly, many foreign policy analysts see echoes of Joe Biden's 2024 ceasefire framework in Trump's 20-point plan. Biden's proposal had also envisioned a three-phase approach. It collapsed after just 6 weeks, though. Trump's version borrows the same structure, but he has replaced Biden's cautious diplomacy with trademark bluster. However, the world still remains optimistic.
Yeah, I was just given a note by...
The plan drew an immediate endorsement from Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who called Trump to congratulate him on the historic peace plan. Modi also called Netanyahu, praising his strong leadership and welcoming the release of hostages. Interestingly, Israeli reports suggest that Benjamin Netanyahu paused the Security Cabinet meet to talk to Prime Minister Modi. Now it's tempting to see this as a triumph of diplomacy, and perhaps for now it is, but the deal rests on fragile ground. Mutual exhaustion, political survival, and Trump's appetite for legacy making. Israel wants security. Hamas wants survival. Trump wants history to remember that he ended the Gaza war, that many others couldn't. However, no one in West Asia believes in everlasting peace anymore. So perhaps the goal for now is just progress.
We've heard a lot about NATO expansion, but Donald Trump is talking about NATO reduction, about kicking out member countries from the alliance, specifically Spain. The statement was made on Thursday at the White House. Trump was hosting fellow NATO member Finland, and both leaders were discussing the alliance's new defense spending target. Trump complained that Spain was not adhering to it. So he floated a radical idea. Why not throw them out?
We had one laggard. It was Spain. Spain. You have to call them and find why are they a laggard. And they're doing well, too. You know, the funny thing, because of a lot of the things we've done, they're doing fine. They have no excuse not to do this, but that's all right. Maybe you should throw them out of NATO, frankly.
I know this raises multiple questions, like what is the spending target? Why isn't Spain following it? And can Trump remove Spain from NATO? Let's answer these questions. Now first, what is the spending target? Every country has a dedicated military budget. This is often calculated as a percentage of national GDP. Before Trump, this spending was 2%, meaning that NATO members had to spend 2% of their GDP on defense. But Trump wanted to raise it to 5%. In June, when the alliance met, this was on top of the agenda. Most NATO allies were open to the idea. A, to appease Trump, and B, to defend against Russia. But Spain was not. In the end, NATO agreed to bump up spending to 5%. But Spain resisted. Their Prime Minister claimed that he had opted out.
We understand the difficulty of the geopolitical context. We fully respect, of course, the legitimate desire of other countries to increase their investment in defense, if they so wish, but we are not going to do so.
This claim was contested even then. The NATO chief had said that no country can opt out. Trump himself shot a warning to Spain. He threatened to make them pay.
What we're going to do, we're negotiating with Spain on a trade deal. We're going to make them pay twice as much. And I'm actually serious about that.
NATO has no opt-outs. And NATO doesn't know side deals or side deals. So that's on the particular question you ask about Spain. What all allies will do is that, of course, they have the sovereign right and also the flexibility to determine their path for delivering on the NATO commitments.
Which brings us to present day. Why is Spain refusing to spend 5% on defense? Their Prime Minister explained his position in a letter back in June. For starters, to spend 5%, Spain will have to raise taxes on the middle class. It would also have to cut spending elsewhere, like on green transition and foreign aid. The Prime Minister also raised concerns about defense deals. A 5% spending would require Spain to buy weapons from outside, and this would hurt the country's domestic industry. Beyond these reasons, there is also politics. Spain has a left-leaning government. Some of the coalition parties oppose higher military spending. They would much rather spend on welfare measures. Now, all of these reasons explain Spain's reluctance, which raises the final question. Can Trump throw Spain out of NATO? Now, a lot of multilateral treaties do offer exit clauses. For example, you can leave the United Nations and its allied organizations. The exit is built into the treaty. But NATO is different. There is no clause to remove or suspend a member. This was discussed in 2019 as well. Back then, the question mark was over Turkey. The country had purchased Russian air defense missiles, so some US politicians wanted to kick Turkey out. Even then, experts said the same thing. You can't. Legally, there is no way to remove a NATO member. They can quit themselves, but they can't be kicked out. The clause on quitting is mentioned in Article 13 of NATO's founding treaty. It requires a member to give notice of its intention. This notice must be submitted to the United States government. The US will then inform all other members. 1 year after submitting this notice, the member will be out. No voting or veto. If a member wants to, they can quit. But Spain has no such plans. In fact, the government has reaffirmed its commitment to NATO. As for the 5% target, it's not budging. Within the country, this has triggered some controversy. The opposition has seized this issue. They say the problem isn't Spain. The problem is Spain's ruling party and prime minister. As for Trump, this is a crusade. He feels other NATO members are taking the US for a ride. Now, even in his first term, he had forced his allies to raise defense spending, and his complaint about Spain is old. After taking office, the president turned his gun on Madrid. But in a moment of confusion, he said that Spain was a part of the BRICS bloc.
And yet, are they a BRICS nation? What? They're a BRICS nation, Spain. Okay. You know what a BRICS nation is? You'll figure it out.
Confusion aside, the message is clear. Spain has been on Trump's radar for some time. They will either have to raise defense spending or appease Trump in some other way, because there may not be a legal way to remove Spain from NATO. But for all practical purposes, the US can isolate them. It's the coldest place on Earth, and it's fast becoming the center of a global power struggle. The Arctic is melting, and this has unlocked new trade routes and hidden resources. Russia is racing ahead with dozens of icebreakers. Meanwhile, China is also pushing to build its own Arctic footprint. And now the United States is trying to catch up. It has signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Finland. The deal aims to build 11 new icebreaker ships and reshape America's power in the polar north. Our next report has more.
It's cold, it's remote, and it's suddenly the hottest piece of real estate in global geopolitics. Welcome to the Arctic, where the ice is melting, and the power games are heating up. For decades, this frozen frontier was a scientific outpost. It's a place where climate researchers tracked vanishing glaciers and retreating sea ice. But now, as the Arctic warms nearly 4 times faster than the rest of the planet, it is becoming something else entirely. It's becoming a strategic stage for the world's biggest powers. And why is that so? Because melting ice means new shipping routes. It means shorter trade passages and easier access to untapped oil, gas, and minerals. And whoever controls these icy lanes could control the future of global trade and energy. Russia knows that. It reportedly operates around 50 icebreakers, including nuclear-powered ones. Moscow has also allegedly reopened Soviet-era bases in the region. China, too, is expanding. It reportedly has at least 5 icebreakers. Beijing plans to make the Arctic a vital link in its global trade network. Meanwhile, the United States is playing catch-up. Its Coast Guard currently operates 3 polar icebreakers. These are specialized ice-breaking vessels designed to smash through thick polar ice. America has just 3. That's a small fleet for a global superpower, especially when compared with Russia and China. Donald Trump says that's about to change. On Thursday, America signed a landmark deal with Finland. Finland designs 80% of the world's icebreakers, and it builds 60% of them. Under the agreement, 4 new Arctic security cutters will be built in Finnish shipyards. Up to 7 more will follow in the United States. That's a total of 11 new vessels. The project is worth around $6.1 billion, and it is expected to deliver the first ship by 2028.
We're buying the finest icebreakers in the world, and Finland's known for making them. They sort of have almost a monopoly on icebreakers, if you think about it. Nobody makes them like Finland. I've heard that for a long time. So we're going to have a total of 11, and it's been really an honor working on it.
The deal isn't just about new ships, it's about strategy. Washington now calls the Arctic a venue for strategic competition. It's a region where Russian and Chinese ambitions could clash with those of the United States and NATO. Besides, Trump's second term has begun rewriting America's Arctic playbook. He wants to revive shipbuilding in America, and has also refused to rule out acquiring Greenland from Denmark for strategic purposes. The focus has also shifted from climate science to defense. Research grants have been cut. A major Arctic research consortium shut down in September. The administration has approved nearly $9 billion this year for heavy, medium, and light icebreakers. But there are challenges ahead. America's shipbuilding has struggled with delays, shortage of skilled workers, and cost overruns. And experts warn that turning these ambitious plans into reality won't be easy. Still, the message is clear: Washington wants to project power in the Arctic, and it wants to do it fast.
There is a new flashpoint in the China-Taiwan conflict. At the center of it is a new defense project, a new bid by Taipei to protect its skies. Taiwan has announced a new defense project. It is called the T-Dome.
The increase in defense spending has a purpose. We aim to achieve three major goals. First, accelerate our building of the T-Dome, establish a rigorous air defense system in Taiwan with multi-layered defense, high-level detection, and effective interception, and weave a safety net for Taiwan to protect the lives and property of citizens.
The T-Dome is like Israel's Iron Dome. It's an air defense system. It is supposed to defend Taiwan's skies against any possible missile attacks from China. Taiwan's president made this announcement today on the National Day of Taiwan. He said Taiwan will build a comprehensive air defense system, one that includes different layers of defense, high-level detection, and strong interception capabilities. He didn't mention China by name, but the message was clear. This system is meant to protect Taiwan from aerial attacks. He called it a safety net for the people of Taiwan and said that peace would be maintained through strength. Now, what exactly will the T-Dome do? In simple words, it will link up all of Taiwan's existing air defense systems. The country already has missile defenses. It also deploys American weapons like the Patriot missiles. But right now, these systems are operating in silos. The T-Dome will tie them together into one shield. So that's the plan from Taipei. But how is Beijing responding? In one word, strongly. China's foreign ministry has issued a warning. Beijing said this could push Taiwan into a dangerous situation. China also criticized military ties between Taiwan and the U.S.
Lai Ching-te's remarks distort the truth, confuse public perception, and regurgitate the falsehood that democracy confronts authoritarianism. He peddles the separatist fallacy of Taiwan independence, distorts and challenges historical facts and international consensus. This once again exposes his stubborn nature as a troublemaker, creator of danger, and a war maker.
China has been engaging in some muscle flexing as well. Just last month, Xi Jinping held a parade. It showed off weapons that could be used in a conflict over Taiwan. Recently, China conducted military drills. They simulated strikes on Taiwan's ports. They even practiced blockade scenarios. So those are the steps on the military front. Beijing is also trying to build diplomatic pressure. China has put forward a sweeping demand before the U.S. It wants the U.S. to issue a declaration. Beijing wants Washington to officially oppose Taiwan's independence. Right now, the U.S. says it does not support Taiwan independence. But that's not good enough for Beijing. They want stronger language. They want the U.S. to go a step further. Reports say that China made this request to the Trump administration recently. Both sides have been engaged in hectic negotiations, mostly around trade issues. China has now included this declaration in its demands. The Trump team has not taken a final decision, but the debate is on. This may sound like a minor request, but for China, words matter. And this shift would be a diplomatic win for Beijing. It could be used to isolate Taiwan on the world stage. So where do things stand? On the one hand, Taiwan is building its defenses. On the other, China is pushing a diplomatic offensive. And Washington has some crucial decisions to make. The choices the US makes could either defuse the crisis or escalate the situation. This is a delicate time for the region. One wrong move could destabilize the entire Indo-Pacific. The goal must be deterrence, not confrontation, and the priority must be peace, not power plays. It's the kind of corporate drama that India isn't used to seeing, especially not from the House of Tata. This is a name that for over a century has stood for stability and quiet power. But today, it seems caught in a public power struggle. At stake is the future of a $328 billion empire, one that makes everything from salt to steel. The fight has spilled out of the boardroom, pulled in cabinet ministers, and shaken one of India's most trusted brands. So what exactly is happening inside the Tata Group, and why now? Our next report breaks it down.
There's a power struggle at the heart of corporate India, at a company that is synonymous with nation building, trust and grace. The Tata Group, a $328 billion salt-to-steel giant. The power struggle has grabbed headlines, frozen decision-making and dragged in top union ministers. The question is, what's it all about? To understand this tussle, we must look at the ownership structure first. The Tata Group has dozens of companies, including 29 publicly listed ones. Their holding company is called Tata Sons, and Tata Sons has multiple shareholders. The biggest one, Tata Trusts, owns a 66% stake. The trust is currently chaired by Noel Tata, half-brother of the late Ratan Tata. He leads the first faction in this tussle. On the other side is the Shapoorji Pallonji Group. They own 18.4% of a stake in Tata Sons, and they are led by former Citibank CEO and Pallonji Group director Meheli Mistry. Both factions are at odds over two main issues. The first is appointments to the board of Tata Sons. The second is the listing of Tata Sons. The first issue came to the fore recently, during an unprecedented vote. The Noel Tata faction was trying to reappoint Vijay Singh to the Tata Sons board. Singh is a former Defence Secretary of India. He was brought in as a trustee by Ratan Tata, but his reappointment was blocked. Historically, decisions at Tata have been made unanimously, but this time the board was split, with 4 members voting against Singh's appointment. The tussle was out in the open. The other issue is the listing of Tata Sons. The Pallonji Group, which has its own debt issues, wants to list the Tata holding company. But Tata Trusts, led by Noel Tata, has always opposed it. Some board members allege that Noel Tata is also not sharing adequate information with them. All of this has evolved into a power tussle. Reports say even union ministers have been dragged in. Noel Tata and other trustees reportedly visited Home Minister Amit Shah at his residence this week. Also present was India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. If you're wondering why, because that's how big the Tata Group is. They make steel, they make cars, they make salt and food, they operate planes, they make weapons. Simply put, Tata isn't just a company or brand. It's a national institution of India. Any freeze or crisis of leadership could have nationwide implications. So, is there a way out? New reports suggest that Tata Sons could offer a partial exit to the Palki Group, maybe a 4 to 6% stake dilution. This would address the Palki Group's debt crisis. At the same time, it would end the demands for listing Tata Sons. But it's not clear if both sides have agreed to it. Whatever the outcome, the crisis itself is unprecedented in Tata's history. Yes, the shareholders have been divided before, but things never spilled over into boardroom splits or votes. Until recently, the steady leadership of Ratan Tata would tide over the differences. The next few days will be crucial for one of India's iconic names.
Artificial intelligence, the buzzword that promised to change everything. Tech giants called it the next industrial revolution, the tool that would rewrite how we work, think and live. Generative AI was the star of that story. But as 2026 looms closer, the hype is starting to sound a little hollow. The miracle machine is beginning to look less like a revolution. It feels more like a very expensive science experiment. This week, the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of England both issued stark warnings. The world's stock markets are flying dangerously high on AI euphoria, and gravity, they hinted, always wins. The IMF chief, Kristalina Georgieva, didn't mince her words. She says uncertainty is the new normal. Now, what does that mean? The world's economy may look steady from afar, but the ground beneath it is shifting. The IMF noted a few telling signs. Gold prices are soaring to record highs, tariffs are distorting trade, and stock valuations are reaching levels eerily similar to the dot-com boom. The Bank of England echoed the concern. It warned of a sharp market correction if AI optimism fades. Economists have a checklist for bubbles. AI, they say, ticks most of the boxes. One is rapid price growth. Tech stocks, especially AI-related ones, have surged beyond what fundamentals justify. Nvidia, for instance, is now more valuable than GDPs of countries. Second is excessive optimism. Everyone assumes AI will revolutionize everything. 3 is overinvestment. Firms are pouring billions into data centers and chips, that too often without clear paths to profit. 4 is circular money. AI companies are investing in each other's infrastructure and products. It is reminiscent of the dot-com bubble. Now, 5th is concentration risk. Tech now makes up roughly 40% of the S&P 500. When one part of the market sneezes, the whole economy catches a cold. And if you look deeper into the AI economy, the picture gets murkier. OpenAI is now valued at $500 billion, yet it doesn't turn a meaningful profit. It signed massive deals, but remains dependent on investor faith. AI infrastructure is also outrageously expensive. Data centers require astronomical power, chips, and cooling costs. And yet, most businesses still struggle to justify the return. A recent MIT study found that 95% of enterprise AI pilots fail to deliver meaningful financial returns. However, not everyone is panicking. Jeff Bezos recently said the AI boom is more of an industrial bubble than a financial one. And that means even if it bursts, society will still benefit from the underlying innovation. Sam Altman of OpenAI also agrees. He admits this is sort of a bubble, but also believes AI will change the world. So what could pop the bubble? The Bank of England lists a few possibilities. Disappointing AI progress, power shortages, or simply competition eating into sky-high profit expectations. Investors, meanwhile, are already seeking safety in gold. The IMF warns that if the bubble bursts, tighter financial conditions could drag down global growth. because unlike in 2000, this time AI is everywhere. So what happens next? Every era has its next big thing. The railroads, the radio, the internet, crypto, and now AI. Each started with wild optimism and then met reality. And yet from every crash, something lasting emerged. AI might follow the same arc. For now, the mood remains bullish or delusional, depending on who you ask. The AI bubble may not burst tomorrow, but it's definitely inflating. And bubbles rarely deflate politely. A new reality is transforming the job market. The race for work now includes machines, and Gen Z is feeling the pressure. The first jobs of a career are shifting. Entry-level roles are increasingly automated into lines of code, and the impact is impossible to ignore. Tasks once handled by graduates are being taken over by artificial intelligence. As companies pour billions into AI infrastructure rather than new hires, experts warn of a looming job apocalypse, a challenge that could redefine the nature of work. Here's our report.
It was once a simple story. You studied hard, you landed that first job, and if you worked your way up, the corner office was yours. But that story is being rewritten by a machine. For Gen Z, the first step into the workforce is starting to vanish. Artificial intelligence is taking the entry-level job and turning it into code. The spreadsheets, the admin, the research. Work that once taught you how a company runs is now being done faster, cheaper, and without a salary. A new global study puts it bluntly. Business leaders are choosing artificial intelligence over new hires. 41% say AI is already letting them cut headcount. 31% now look at an AI solution before hiring a person. 2/5 of those surveyed say junior roles have already been reduced. And a quarter believe most entry-level tasks could soon be automated. This is according to a British Standards Institution survey of 850 business leaders. The survey was conducted across the United States, the UK, France, Germany, China, Japan, and Australia. But behind those numbers is a deeper tension. Leaders say AI is unlocking enormous opportunities. It boosts productivity, it fills skill gaps, and it cuts costs in ways that were once unthinkable. 3/4 of executives now expect new AI tools to deliver results within the next year. But those gains are coming with a cost. Nearly 4 in 10 leaders in the survey admitted that entry-level roles have already been reduced. The disruption caused by AI is now playing out across the workforce. It's not the Gen Z alone who is affected. Companies are cutting jobs and they are starting at the bottom. As of this month, reportedly more than 180,000 tech workers have been laid off globally this year. Entry-level positions are often the first to go. They are predictable, they are process-driven, and they are now easily automated by software that never takes a break. That's why the first step into a company is disappearing. In the United States, data showed entry-level job postings for traditional corporate roles decreased by approximately 15% last year. Another US report this year revealed a dangerous picture. Workers between the ages of 22 and 25 in jobs which are most exposed to AI have seen a 13% decline in employment since 2022. For many, this is the toughest job market they have faced in years. Some are calling it a job apocalypse. But here's the contradiction. Even as businesses shrink their workforces, they are spending more than ever on artificial intelligence. Companies including Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Amazon, among others, are pouring record sums in AI infrastructure.
Exciting chapter of search here.
The message from boardrooms is clear. Automation is no longer a side project. It is the business model. Efficiency is the priority. And anything that can be automated will be. That shift has consequences far beyond the payroll. Fewer entry-level roles mean fewer opportunities to learn on the job. Without that early exposure, young workers risk missing out on vital skills. And without that first step, building a career becomes harder. So for the Gen Z, the challenge is no longer just to get hired. It is to stay ahead of the machine.
There's a new kind of therapist in town, one that never sleeps, never judges, and never forgets what you said. It lives in your phone. It talks like a friend. It remembers your bad days, your dreams, even your fears. Artificial intelligence has quietly become the world's most accessible listener. Millions of people now open an app and pour their hearts out to a chatbot. It feels safe and affordable. But as we celebrate World Mental Health Day, it's worth asking a harder question. Are we healing or just being heard by machines? Machines that don't understand what it means to be human. Our next report tells you more.
Therapy in most parts of the world is still a luxury. Waiting lists stretch for months, sessions cost as much as rent, and stigma keeps millions from ever walking into a clinic. AI, on the other hand, promises something radical. It offers support that's instant, private, and always available. No small talk, no scheduling, no judgment. For the cost of a streaming subscription, people now get what feels like emotional companionship. A therapist who never cancels, a friend who never interrupts. In theory, it's beautiful. In reality, it's complicated. Here's the uncomfortable truth. AI doesn't understand you, it just predicts what you want to hear next. That comforting tone, the empathetic replies, the gentle, "I'm here for you," they're not empathy. They're pattern recognition, words arranged to mimic care, and yet that imitation works. People form attachments. They start depending on these bots emotionally. Some even do what they say. Like a teen who was supposedly encouraged by ChatGPT to die by suicide. Unlike human therapists, chatbots don't have training in crisis intervention. They can fail to detect suicidal intent or respond inappropriately to distress. There have already been tragic cases where people, seeking help from bots, spiral deeper into hopelessness. And when that happens, there is no accountability. These systems aren't bound by medical ethics. They aren't regulated under health privacy laws. Also, AI doesn't forget. It doesn't delete, and it doesn't truly protect you. The data from these mental health companions can be used to train new model, target ads, or even sold to third parties. And with regulations lagging far behind technology, users are largely unprotected. To be clear, AI isn't the villain here. When used carefully, it can help people practice coping techniques, organize thoughts, or manage anxiety between sessions. But there's a reason AI mental health companions have exploded in popularity. They fill gaps that real systems have left wide open. In many countries, including the US and India, the ratio of mental health professionals to patients is abysmal. Waiting lists stretch for months, costs too are very high. Even with insurance, sessions can run hundreds of dollars. AI apps, in contrast, cost less than a cup of coffee a day. So we understand the appeal of it. But on this World Mental Health Day, let's remember something simple but profound. A machine can listen, but only a human can truly understand. AI might one day learn to mirror emotion flawlessly, but it will never know what it feels like to cry and mean it, to hold space for someone else's pain, or to sit in silence and simply be there. The future of mental health may include AI, but it should never replace the one thing that healing has always required: a human connection.
And now it's time for Vantage shots, images that tell the story. Strong 7.4 magnitude quake strikes off the coast of the Philippines. Protesters rally in Amman in solidarity with Gazans. And Berlin hippo calf goes diving with its mother. Finally, taking you back in history, on this day in 1970, the island nation of Fiji gained independence. Fiji attracted European settlers who wanted to establish plantations. In 1874, it became a British colony. Fiji's independence came due to international pressure 96 years later. Leaving you on that note, thank you for watching. See you on Monday.
Want the facts?
The latest developments?
News that gets straight to the point.
Well, we've got all three just for you. This is Firstpost Live, a brand new show, your window into what really matters.
Don't miss it.